Hey everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I wanted to thank those of you who have liked and subscribed to my channel. It really means a lot to me. I hope you guys are enjoying these videos that I've been making, and hopefully I'll be posting twice out of the week instead of once. It seems like I'm always posting on Thursdays. Today I wanted to talk a little bit about loving our enemies. I know it can be a little difficult to love someone who's betrayed us, who's done us wrong, who has hurt us, who has said bad things about us. But I'm hoping by the end of this video that you would be encouraged in loving harder and more better. And also wanted to encourage you in knowing that God is in control of your life and that there's nothing in this world that can stop the plans that He has for you, despite what anyone may have spoken about you. So I wanted to share some scriptures, I wanted to share a few of my stories, and I also wanted to encourage you guys towards the end of this video. So let's get right into it. So growing up, I feel like my dad's raised me to be very strong mentally and physically. Anytime I would hurt myself when I was a little girl, whether it be from falling off my bike or just tripping and hurting my knee, my dad would always tell me, "You're fine, get up." And he would also like rub my owie very hard until it didn't hurt anymore. And I feel like it worked every single time that happened. And he's also raised me to not care what anyone thinks of me. It doesn't matter what anyone says about me. And I remember in my younger days how I would always tell my dad, "I think I'm weird, I'm just different, I'm weird." And my dad would always say, "You're not weird, you're just unique." And so I always appreciated that. And so I wanted to share a few of my stories growing up. I feel like there are 3 instances that I can remember where I was bullied or things were being said about me. So my first memory would be when I was in middle school. I was brand new to this middle school, and a couple of my classmates introduced me to this girl. For those of you who do not know, my name is Marissa. This other girl's name was Marissa. And so when they introduced me to her, she kind of was like, "That's my name, you stole my name." And she kind of like looked me up and down, and she saw that I was wearing white Nike shoes. We both had similar Nike shoes on. Hers were just plain basic white Nikes, and mine were Nike Air Force Ones. And when she saw that I was wearing white Nike, she was like, "Ooh, and you're stealing my shoes too?" And in my head, I was just thinking like, mine are actually Air Force Ones. Yours are just basic Nikes. Mine were more expensive. I didn't say it out loud, it was just a thought. I was just thinking it. Probably would have gotten in trouble if I would have said that. She might have punched me in the face, maybe. Who knows what would have happened. But that's one of the first instances. I actually really wasn't bothered by that, just because, again, like my dad told me, who cares what anyone thinks? Don't pay them any attention. So I kind of had that mindset of like, whatever. I'm just kidding. The second instance would be back in 2020. I had a coworker. I thought she was cool. I mean, we were work friends. We never hung out outside of work, but I did consider her to be like a cool person. Somewhere along the line, something happened and she began to say all these things about me. I think she said I wasn't doing my job, but it's not my fault that customers are buying like this specific like item. So I think that's where it all kind of just went down. And a couple of my coworkers told me like, "Hey, so-and-so is saying this about you." And at that time I was very like shocked, and if I'm being honest, I was hurt, because It was around that time when I had experienced a very tremendous loss in my life. And so I was already at a point where I was extremely devastated, extremely sad. And not only that, I have a coworker who is saying these things about me which aren't true. And if we're being completely honest, why does it always seem like when we're at a low point in our lives, the devil will come and bring anything and everything against you? He will use people. He'll use people at your job, in your own household, your family, your friends, because he's very sneaky like that. He will use anything and everything to tear you apart. And when these coworkers were telling me, like, hey, this girl said something about you, they actually stood up for me because they knew that that's not who I was. They knew that that's not who I am. And that really meant a lot for me, because we know that Satan is the accuser of the brethren, and Jesus, being seated at the right hand of our Heavenly Father, is interceding on our behalf. And so I kind of get this picture of like, wow, I had these coworkers who were, sticking up for me and telling her that that was the complete opposite of who I am. And around that time, I had 2 songs that I would listen to on repeat, because I'm like, I have an enemy, Lord help me. And so I would always listen to Stephanie Gretzinger, Confident, and Kim Walker-Smith, On My Side. In the song Confident by Stephanie, it says, your laughter scatters my enemies, and all of heaven is surrounding me. And in the Kim Walker-Smith song, On My Side, it says, in the front lines, you fight for me. And those songs are always on repeat. Like anytime someone says something about me or did me wrong, I always play those songs. It's just, to me, it comforts me. It shows me like God is with me and he is on my side. And I remember one afternoon before going into work, I was sitting in the truck and I was like, Lord, humble my enemies before me. I was praying. I literally clocked in and I was standing by the trash can kind of taking notes, and this coworker who was saying all these things about me had a bag of powder that she needed to throw away. And when she threw it away into the trash can, all of the white powder came all over me, like from shoulders to my feet. I was covered in white powder. She was like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. And she went and grabbed a rag and she literally got on her hands and knees and began to wipe me down. She wiped my feet down. She wiped my pants down. She was wiping me all down. And she was like, I'm so sorry. And I'm just looking down at her and I'm like, oh my goodness, my prayer. Like I literally asked God to humble my enemies before me, and here she is on her hands and knees, wiping me down with a rag. And I just was like, oh my gosh, I will never forget that moment, because it was like, whoa, wow. So just know that if you're experiencing some things in a workplace, know that you are not alone. God is with you. No weapon formed against you shall prosper. As a matter of fact, I'm going to read Isaiah chapter 54, verse 17, where it says, but in that coming day, no weapon turned against you will succeed. You will silence every voice raised up to accuse you. These benefits are enjoyed by the servants of the Lord. Their vindication will come from me. I, the Lord, have spoken. So be encouraged and know that the Lord will fight for you, and that anything that anyone's have ever done to you, know that God is a God of justice, and he will bring order. And yeah. And the Bible tells us to bless those who curse us, and to pray for those who are cruel to us. So I think that's Proverbs, I think. But the third time I've ever experienced, people saying things about me was from a church. And I never thought I would ever experience anything like that. In fact, I thought I would never experience anything like it. I've often run into people who have been hurt from people in the church, but I never thought that I myself would experience anything like it until I did. I have been falsely accused. My name has been slandered. Things were spoken about me, and you may be wondering, well, how do you know? I remember there was a time when God told me to be careful of a certain individuals. And let me be completely open about this. I wasn't just hurt from just anybody in the church. I was hurt by leaders and pastors in the church. The people who are supposed to lead us and shepherd us to show us the way were the very ones who are hurting me, and who knows how many others they've hurt. And because I've experienced something like this, it really did break me, because you would never expect something like this to happen, let alone in the church. Of course, in the world, yes, it's expected to happen, but in a church, but I never allowed bitterness to come. In fact, there was a time when God told me, Marissa, don't allow them to affect your character. You know who you are. And I say this because the things that were being spoken about me were like, there's something dark in her, and she's this, and all these other things. And even though I was deeply affected and wounded by it, I was always reminded that I'm in good company, because they also said that Jesus was demon possessed and that his works were of the devil, and they rejected him from his own hometown. They rejected him as Messiah, and did so many awful things to him. And it was the people, it was the Pharisees who were plotting to kill Jesus. It was the Pharisees, the people who were teaching, were trying to get this man destroyed, destroy him completely, destroy his character, and try to get people against this man when he truly was the Son of God. And I look at my life and I think of all these things that came against me, and I'm like, oh my goodness, like, the enemy is really out here to kill, steal, and destroy. And how I look at it, how I was looking at it during that time was, the enemy really does not want me in the church. The enemy does not want me in ministry. And so because of that, he has to use people in the church to bully me out, to kick me out. But it's not going to happen with me, because as I have spoken and have said in previous videos, when you have a strong relationship with God, there is no man, no woman, no demon in hell that can separate his love from me, from us. And so that happened. Now, I forgive very easily. It's honestly a gift to be able to forgive quickly. I've always been like that. I think the one thing that I am struggling with is having respect for these people who call themselves leaders, pastors, or even loving them. And in the Bible it says, if someone says I love God but hates a fellow believer, that person is a liar. And it's not that I hate the person or the people that have hurt me. It's more of just, I've lost complete respect for you. Because I don't hate anyone, but it's like I don't have like that love or that deep love for the people who've hurt me, because who wants to love someone who's hurt you, who has wounded you? Not me, if I'm being completely honest. But Jesus calls us to love one another. And so yeah, it was a very challenging couple years for me, but being comforted and knowing like this happened to Jesus as well really helped me and encouraged me to kind of look at the whole picture. And also, we wrestle not against flesh and blood enemies, but against evil rulers and authorities in the unseen world. And I've always been intrigued with the story of Joseph. That's like one of my favorite stories in the Bible. And I look at his story in his life. He was betrayed by his own brothers. They tried to kill him. They sold him into slavery. Joseph went to Egypt. He was sold to Potiphar. He worked for Potiphar. And it said that the Lord was with him. The Lord was with Joseph. And then Potiphar's wife accuses him of something he never did. And he gets thrown into prison. And he's in prison for so many years until, we know that two men were thrown into prison with Joseph. They both had dreams, and Joseph interpreted their dreams, and they both came to pass. One was killed, one was put back into his position of cupbearer, and Joseph told him, "Remember me." And the man totally forgot all about him, and so more time passes by. Joseph remains in prison until Pharaoh has reoccurring dreams, and no one in his palace is able to interpret his dreams. Not the magicians, not the sorcerers, not the people. And the cupbearer remembers Joseph and tells him, "I know someone who can interpret your dream." And so Joseph comes out of prison. He interprets Pharaoh's dreams for him. There would be 7 years of prosperity and 7 years of famine, and both came to pass. And because he interpreted his dream, Pharaoh made him above everyone in Egypt except for Pharaoh. And so Joseph was in charge of everything that Pharaoh had given him. And in the end, if you don't know that story, please go read it. It's so good. You can read it in Genesis. But in the end, Joseph's brothers were sent to Egypt to get food. Joseph recognizes his brothers, but his brothers don't recognize him. And I'll kind of fast forward everything. Joseph told them, I'm going to go there. And in the end, Joseph told his brothers, "You intended to harm me, but God intended it all for good. He brought me to this position so I could save the lives of many people." It's Genesis chapter 50, verse 20. And so I know that God is going to do some amazing things in my life. I unfortunately had to go through what I did to develop my character. That way God can take me to the place that he is wanting to take me, to the palace. Let me just prophesy over myself. And let this encourage you as well. If you feel like you resonate with this story, with my story, be encouraged to know that God will take what the enemy meant for evil and he will turn it for your good. In Jeremiah it says, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you a hope and a future." So be encouraged to know that God is with you. He will never let you down. And there's not a single person in this world that can stop the plans of God for your life. There is nothing in this world, no demon that can hurt you. I say this because just recently, maybe at the beginning of this year, I had 2 dreams back to back, very similar, same people were in the dreams, and I know it was a warning from God, and I guess I'll go ahead and share that with you guys. In my first dream, there was a witch walking behind me, and she poked me on my left arm, and I had turned to look at her, and I said, "Did you just touch me?" And she said, "Yes, but you're protected." And so later on in that dream, a warlock came out, and my dad was in my dream. He was standing behind me. This warlock was standing in front of me, and this warlock wanted to harm my dad. And he had an orange in his hand, and he threw it at my dad, and I caught the orange, and I threw it down. And in the dream, God was saying that because I'm standing in the gap for my dad, because I'm interceding for my dad, like I am in real life, I'm constantly praying for my family every single day, because of me interceding for my dad, he can't touch my dad. They can't touch my dad. And so I was like, so make sure you're praying for your loved ones. Never stop praying for your loved ones. Never stop praying for whoever God puts on your heart to pray for, because there is a reason, there is a purpose behind it. Their life may be in danger. That's why God drops people on our hearts. That way we can pray over them and pray for them, because there may be something, danger, that is headed their way, and we need to intercede on their behalf and pray over them and pray for them. And in my second dream, I was in a church building. My dad was there, and there was a witch, and this witch was trying to harm my dad. And I remember in the church building, there were people who held her back. They kind of like blocked her, and they held her back from trying to harm my dad. And that's when my dad and I escaped. We went in his truck and we began to drive away. And next thing you know, I turned around and there was a car full of witches and warlocks in there. I think there was about 7 or 8 of them following us. My dad and I both got out of the truck, and then these witches and warlocks began to surround us. They were all around us, and I began to speak in tongues in my dream. I began to speak in tongues, and then they began to manifest and say, "Shut up." They were so mad because of what I was doing, and I actually woke up speaking in tongues. I woke myself up speaking in tongues. And I'm laying there in bed, and I'm like, oh my goodness, this is a warning from God. And God began to give me revelation after revelation after revelation after revelation. He was showing me faces of the people who are doing this, of the people who are causing this, of the people who are trying to hurt my dad because of me. And because they couldn't touch me or do anything to me, they know that he is in a vulnerable state, so they're going to try and come after him because he's connected to me. He's my dad. But little do they know is I am constantly praying for him. I'm constantly covering him. And because I am doing that, they cannot touch him. And so I sat up in bed. I began to pray. And again, revelation after revelation. And I got up and I went and woke up my mom, and I told her, we need to pray. Like, this is very serious. It was, I don't even know what time it was. It was super early in the morning, maybe 2, I don't know. And we began to pray. I actually couldn't go back to sleep. I went into my living room and I began to pray more. And again, more revelation came, and I was just kind of just blown away. And I'm like, man, these people who are trying to harm me, they're trying to like assassinate my character. They're trying to harm me, but they can't. So they're trying to come after my family, but they can't harm my family because they are covered in the blood of Jesus. And you know, looking back at the past, few years, I just think like, wow, my character has developed so much. The more that I read the story of Joseph and even see Jesus's walk and how he was betrayed and how all this stuff came up against him, it was like There was always an awesome ending to every single story. Every story in the Bible, and I know that there's going to be an awesome and amazing ending to my story as well as yours as well. And I want to encourage you guys and just know that if there is anything like this happening in your life, know that God is with you. His hand is on you, and there's nothing in this world that can stop the plans that God has for you. No witch, no warlock, no demon, no devil, no man, no woman, no principality, no evil spirit. May every demonic altar be torn down in the mighty name of Jesus. Nothing can stop the plans of God. I know what my purpose is in life, and because all these things happen to me, it just shows me that there is something greater on the other side of what I've faced. And I'm confident in God. I know that God has my back, and I trust in Him always and forever. In Romans chapter 12, verse 19, it says, "Dear friends, never take revenge. Leave that to the righteous anger of God. For the scriptures say, 'I will take revenge. I will pay them back,' says the Lord. Instead, if your enemies are hungry, feed them. If they are thirsty, give them something to drink. In doing this, you will heap burning coils of shame on their heads. Do not let evil conquer you, but conquer evil by doing good." And there was a time when I was like, Lord, I want justice. I want vindication. But after, I guess, growing a lot since then, I'm just like, Lord, bless them. I pray that their family be blessed and all this stuff. But like I said earlier in the video, it's kind of hard for me to have respect for these individuals because of the things that they have done to me. But if you guys want to keep me in prayer in that area, I would love that so much, because I don't want to be someone who doesn't have I don't know. Like, I don't respect evil, so should I respect them? I don't know. Someone teach me. So that's pretty much all that I have for you guys. Keep me in prayer, because the enemy knows. Like, the enemy, whatever God has for me, the enemy doesn't want it to come to pass. And it is gonna come. What God has for me is going to happen. What God has for you is going to happen. So be encouraged. Also, if you are having a hard time forgiving, ask God, help me, God, to forgive this person, and release it. Give it to God and allow God to do what only He can do. Let Him fight your battles. And I think it's in Exodus, He says, all you need to do is be still. The Lord will fight for you. So thank you guys so much for watching the video. I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope you guys have a blessed week.